I think that was Ted Wheeler's freaking job out there in Portland. I think he...
Ted Wheeler was in charge of people in wheelchairs?
No. He was the mayor of Portland at the time.
Okay. I was about to say, like, that is some nominative determinism. If that was the case.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we wanted to talk about
election interference. That's where we're supposed to be at, right? And I'm gonna take us way back to 2015, right? It kind of all started with Trump entering into the election, and Hillary Clinton basically was like, and this is in her emails that she got hacked on, the DNC, between her and the DNC. She basically felt like the only Republican she could win against, right, is Donald Trump. So she funneled almost all of her money into getting him the nomination for Republican. So already right there, right, we have people meddling and interfering in our elections, trying to change the nomination for the Republicans. And we got Donald Trump. And at the time, I was like, this is the worst, right? Because I would have loved to see Rand Paul in there. I love Rand Paul. And at the time, I didn't have a lot of respect for Donald Trump. I saw the way he ran his businesses. I didn't really appreciate who he was as a person, because the only thing I saw was the media presence at the time, and I wasn't impressed. So I ended up voting for, I think it was Gary Johnson at the time, because I liked him way better than either of the other two candidates. But basically, she swayed the election into Donald Trump's name for the Republican nominee, and then using Obama's administration, they started a FISA campaign for Warren, right, to spy on his campaign. They used something called the Steele dossier, which Hillary Clinton's campaign paid for, and he was a British secret agent over there, that wrote a dossier on Trump and used that to get a FISA warrant so that they could spy on him. And Obama, Biden, Clinton, all of those guys knew that it was bunk, right? But they still went through so that they could spy on him. I believe they targeted Carter Page with a lot of the FISA stuff to basically spy on his campaign.
So here, let me just interrupt you. So let me just bring people back, because I mean, this is 2016. All right, the Steele dossier. So I'm going to take a minute. I'm just going to read this thing so that everybody knows what the hell it is you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Steele dossier is a controversial document that was compiled by former British intelligence officer Christopher Steele during the 2016 U.S. presidential campaign. The dossier was commissioned as a part of opposition research, initially funded by the conservative opponents of Donald Trump and later by the Democratic National Committee and the Hillary Clinton campaign. The dossier contains a series of memos that allege ties between Donald Trump, his campaign, and the Russian government, and includes claims that the Russian government had been cultivating Trump as an asset for several years and that they possessed compromising material, often referred to as compromat, on him, which would be used for blackmail. The most infamous allegations in the dossier involve supposed video footage of Trump engaging in compromising activities with Russian prostitutes in a Moscow hotel, though these claims were never substantiated. The Steele dossier played a significant role in the FBI's decision to investigate possible collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. However, the accuracy of the dossier has been heavily disputed, with some parts proven false or unverifiable, while other sections have been corroborated. Critics of the dossier argued it's largely unverified and was used to unfairly target Trump, while supporters argue it raised legitimate concerns that warranted investigation.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, and the illicit stuff that they were talking about was prostitutes peeing on Trump. That was all over the fucking news.
That's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
can we just look? I mean, can we just look at Trump from the outside? We've known Trump. He's been in the public eye for many years, right?
50
Plus
60.
Does he look like somebody with his attitude on women generally not being great? He's definitely yeah. Anyway,
He does not seem like he would have a pee kink.
No.
Ooh, that's yucky.
And he's the guy who grabs them by the derriere, not the person who allows them to golden shower all over his face.
Right. So, and I just kind of want to point out, like Hillary Clinton used campaign funds to get this started, right? Trump just went through a court with Stormy Daniels and was convicted of 34 felonies for using campaign funds for legal expenses. I mean, I'm pretty positive that this falls in that same category and absolutely is 100% more accurate and verified. People have gone through this and realized that this is absolutely not something that should have been paid for, especially with campaign funds, used to spy on American citizen, because he was an American citizen at that point in time. He had not, gotten elected yet to anything. So he was just a regular ass American citizen trying to run a campaign for president. And so this is kind of like where the fun ride starts, right? That Steele dossier stayed within our American politics for 4 years, culminating in the Mueller report, right? Because they got special counsel Mueller to start an investigation on Donald Trump. This leads down, 11 indictments for other people that are in the Trump campaign for various things. Some of it accurate, some of it not. One of the worst ones was General Flynn, right? Completely smeared him, and he is still battling things out. I think it's 9 years now he's been in and out of court for crap. So it's pretty crazy to see, what this one false document did to our American politics. I mean, it changed the landscape of our politics completely, right? This is something me and you have fought about 100%, for 4 years.
Right.
And it's all false. I mean, every last little bit of it. There might be some truth in there,
So there was, right. But it was nothing.
But it wasn't anything that was worth creating millions of dollars. I mean, how many millions of dollars do you think that we spent on this?
I don't know.
20, 30, 40, 50?
I think the thing that people need to focus on is how Hillary was weaponizing the FBI.
Absolutely, she was.
Target Donald Trump during that campaign. Okay, that's what we need to look at. And it's the FBI. It's not that Hillary used it, even though that was bad. It's that the FBI was complicit in that. They should have looked at this and been like, nope, you can go hire your private eye, which is totally within your rights. Go conduct your own investigation and then come back with some stuff, because this is dastardly is what you're asking us to do. But they're like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what was the director's name at that time? He starts with a C. Comey. Thank you. Comey, had an interview with Trump, literally looked him in the eyes and said, nah, you're not under investigation, while he was under investigation, right? Like, that is the epitome. I mean, I've seen government special agents before lie to your face about whether or not you're under investigation or not. Usually, if you're talking to a special agent of any kind from the government, you are under investigation, right? They don't just, how you doing today? No, you are under investigation. If a special agent comes to your house and has a conversation with you, don't talk to him. Sorry.
Right.
Get a lawyer immediately, right then and there. So, you get through what happened to General Flynn. You get through the Mueller report. You get through all of this crap. You get to the first impeachment, right? Democrats are in power. You have...
So just real quick, right? So the foundations of the impeachment were largely based off of the Mueller report. And
yes.
And which was kicked off through the Steele dossier. So we have Steele dossier leading to the the IG bringing in Mueller to conduct this, broader thing. And
Correct.
the Mueller report was really broken down into two pieces. This is, again, just to bring everybody back to 2016. Okay. The first piece was Russian interference in the 2016 election, which he found absolutely occurred. The Russians were 100% meddling with our election.
Yeah.
But he found that there was no collusion between Putin and Russia. Or sorry, Putin and Russia. Putin and Trump. Okay. Or Trump and anybody else in Russia. Okay.
Nope.
He said there was none. And if you know Robert Mueller, you know this guy is he's a good guy. He's an upstanding citizen, and he takes his job very seriously. Okay. The second part was obstruction of justice. And he had in there, like, hey, Trump is trying to fire me. He's trying to curtail the investigation. He's trying to influence witnesses and public statements just by being who he is, right? And he's on Twitter. He's tweeting all these things. He's on all the major media outlets telling people, hey, don't do this, which is not great. Trump, it's not a great thing to do.
But I get it.
But even through all of that, Mueller did not make a judgment on whether or not to indict or make any sort of prosecutorial decision regarding obstruction of justice, because it didn't hit that bar. And he said, hey, Congress, here's the evidence. If you think it meets a bar, you could do something with it. But as far as I'm concerned, nothing to do here. Right.
Which, I mean, at the time, it definitely looks suspicious when you have the sitting president, because this was like 2018, I want to say 2019, going somewhere around in there is when the Mueller investigation was going on. And he's, being Trump and saying this is absolutely ridiculous. And he was right. It was absolutely ridiculous to have that going on in the moment, right? Because he's like, I'm innocent. This is ridiculous. Let's put it to bed. Let's stop wasting taxpayer money. It's not doing anybody any good, right? So you get through all of that, and suspicious or not suspicious, it's just zaniness. It spawns all of the media just slandering him for 4 years, right? It makes this manufactured chaos that the Democrats created around Donald Trump, right, gave everyone the worst taste in their mouth about Donald Trump. Everyone was tired of it. That's why Sleepy Joe came about, and everybody was like, I want a return to normalcy. I want our American politics to settle the hell down, and I want us to get back to a place of common sense and dignity in the American political system. And all of that was spawned, really, by Hillary Clinton and her campaign. So it's kind of just this constant media spin, right, that RFK was talking about in his speech on Friday last week, where he was talking about how the media is doing all of the heavy lifting for the Democrat Party. They are spinning everything constantly, every day, alienating the American people and removing a informed decision from them with their shenanigans. And it's everything from, I'm just going to hit the highlights because I don't have 4 years to hit every headline that the media spun, right? But we got Mexican savages, right? Which was one of Trump's most infamous, things that they smeared him with. And he was talking about MS-13. And you can go back and you can watch the videos and you can be like, okay, he didn't call all Mexican savages. He was talking about MS-13, right? The Charlottesville protests, right? There were 2 separate protest groups out there. I can't even remember what the hell they were protesting, but the KKK came out, or some white supremacy group came out, and they were protesting as well. So there's 3 total groups in this freaking town, right? And Trump was talking about the first 2. He wasn't talking about the KKK, when he was like, there are good people on both sides. And you can go back and you can watch it, and I think I even saved it because I've gotten into so many arguments with people about this crap. But it's just like, those little things, I mean, hell, you can even buy a tiki torch for your house for a couple of years after that,
Right.
because KKK,
So I
right? White
mean,
supremacy.
this is what they do. There are
Yeah,
sound bites. They give you a sound bite of Trump
yeah,
saying something and then apply it to something else.
right.
Or a sound bite. You can take a sound bite out of context very easily, right, to make your case, right? And
And he
that's
makes it
what they
easy.
did. They did it
Yeah,
over and over and over again. But just real quick, before we start going way down here, I just want to add some more
yeah, yeah,
color
yeah.
to what you were saying previously. Okay. So I just want to make it crystal clear why we're talking about the Steele dossier, the Mueller report as a part of election interference. All right.
Yeah.
So we have Trump's political counterparts, right? The people that are trying to win an election and keep Trump from winning the presidency, Hillary Clinton and the DNC. Okay. They're direct opposition. They spend a bunch of money to go have the Steele dossier compiled, use that as a launching board into the Mueller report, and all the while, okay, while these documents are getting prepared, they're just doing nothing but blabbing all over Congress. They're having special hearings. They're bringing in witnesses that are testifying in both of these documents. They're going on CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, NBC, all of this stuff, right? Just every little detail that comes out of any of these reports, they go and make, a whole
Huge.
segment on it. Okay. And it's
Huge.
just non-stop. All right.
For 4 years.
And they're basically saying that Trump is colluding with Russia. This can't be legal. We got to get him out of here. So that is their claim, is that these institutions, Hillary Clinton and the DNC, are claiming, along with now all the complicit Democrats in the House and the Senate, saying that, yes, he is. Okay. American people, don't look into it yourselves. We're telling you that he's complicit. All right.
Yeah.
Here's some of the names if you remember. So they're saying Donald Trump is working with Alex Schneider, Rex Tillerson, Tevfik Arif, Carter Page, and Felix Slater, and Paul Manafort, right? And Wilbur Ross. You remember some of these names. And they're saying that these people all have, Russian business interests. And therefore, Trump is using them to run this underground communication campaign to work with Putin specifically to impact the results of the election, right? They figure that the if you connect all the dots here, they're saying that Trump is talking to his people who are talking to Putin's people who are talking to Putin to then use the FSB and the other Russian secret police and whatnot to interact, to impact, to hack, whatever they could possibly do, mess with social media, Facebook, whatever, to influence the election. Then they have, if you remember, Eric Prince and J.D. Gordon and Jeff Sessions and Michael Flynn and Jared Kushner, for that matter, are supposedly working with this guy, Sergei Kislyak, right? And then he's directly, backlining communications to Putin, which, for Russian affiliated interests, to try to use these affiliated interests to impact the election to get Trump elected. And then, of course, there's Roger Stone and Trump Jr., who have their ties to Russia, who are then affiliated with Putin. Okay, so that was what they were telling us. And every one of those names had their own segment, had their own brouhaha, their own, 2020 report, the Dateline NBC. All of these guys were all talking about these names and how bad they are and how corrupt they are. Guess what? None. Robert Mueller was like, they spent a long time on his report. He interviewed every last one of these people.
2 years.
He dug and dug and dug.
He was in that forever.
No collusion. So for several years, 3 years at this point, we're hearing from all the major media, except for Fox, all the major media that Donald Trump is working with all these people to collude with Russia. And it was all fucking fake. Yeah. That is interference. That is social interference. That's a red flag on the play.
It's the best example of election interference. Like, if you had a definition in the dictionary, it would be the definition for it.
Yes, because they're lying by proxy to the American people. Yeah. There was no collusion. They made it all up. And all of these big media interests, who they just ate it up and they just regurgitated it. And it's called propaganda. And they sent it out. Yeah. And I was one of the victims of it. It's fucking maddening, dude. Yeah. I'm so pissed because
I
it's
mean,
so easy to
everybody
buy.
should be pissed.
Yes,
Everybody should be pissed.
Everybody should be.
I mean,
But
when you get into this crap and you're like, how do I trust? How can I ever trust anyone from the government ever again? How can I trust the media ever again?
right,
When you have a operation this large that encompassed all of our media almost, and most of the House and Senate at that point, right? Um, it's crazy to experience that in our lifetimes, but then also be victims of that in our lifetimes. Like, I would have never ever put that on my bingo card
right.
in 2015. Never.
Nope.
I didn't have it in me to believe that the federal government was capable of that level of corruption. Right?
Right. Right. And so basically what I'm saying, having dug into this, okay, is that we had all these people, CNN anchors, MSNBC anchors, all these people saying all this bullshit, all of these, the DNC, Hillary Clinton, random Democrats in the House and the Senate, all regurgitating this information, which is completely false. And even when Robert Mueller came out and said that it was all, the collusion was a lie, I didn't actually believe it. I was like, yeah. I don't believe it.
I was like, dude, you know that thing that we've been arguing about for 3 years? Mueller just came out and he's like, well, there's stuff in his report that was like, I still think he did it.
So I did. That was my thought.
Because that's the problem with everyone in the country talking about something from a factual basis where you implicitly have trust in them, right? Because the mainstream media has traditionally been a very well-sourced place for us to get media from or news from.
Right. And so what I should have done when you and I were talking, and I was like, well, Robert Mueller came out with this report. It took him too long, Zach. He's an old guy. Like, he's missed some stuff here. It's so obvious that there was collusion. It's so obvious, Zach. He must have missed something. What I should have done, and what you should have told me to do, is we should have went and looked at his background. Who is Robert Mueller? Okay, so this guy was born in 1944. He attended Princeton University, and then he got a master's degree in international relations at New York University, and then he also went to the University of Virginia School of Law. Very educated, very smart guy.
Yeah.
He served as an officer in the United States Marine Corps during the Vietnam War, where he was awarded a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart and the Navy Commendation Medal. So obviously, I don't know the specifics of his Vietnam career, but it was obviously storied. Okay.
Yeah.
He was the assistant United States attorney in San Francisco and Boston. He was the FBI director for 12 years. He was appointed by Bush a week before September 11th, right? Where at the end of his legacy there, he was praised for his leadership in transforming the FBI into an organization focused on counterterrorism and national security. The guy was nothing but massively pro-American, crazy authentic, and genuine.
Yeah.
And so for me to basically say, nah, he missed something, I'm a fucking fool. It was really what it comes down to. It's like, I needed to know who this guy was and appreciate that he didn't leave any stone unturned. He did his
not
due
after
diligence.
a year and a half.
Right.
It was like 18 months that he was in the process of his investigations.
Yes.
And
I read his report. It was long. And
it was a very long one.
Again, remember, it's kind of like the way that this works, and you and I have been talking about this for a long time, is the DNC, the way the propaganda works for the left, is they tell us we're so smart. Okay? You're so smart. You can see this for what it is. You don't need to dig
You're just
into this.
The goodest boy and the smartest boy.
Yeah. And so I believed it. I was like, I am smart. I do know I can look at this on the surface and come to my own conclusions without doing any research. Because I'm hearing it in all the news. I could put it all together by myself. Anyway, I fell for it hook, line, and sinker. And it took, 8 years to really, to come out of that?
Just about. Because I think the Mueller report released in 2019, probably.
Well, you and I have been arguing about this for.
We've been arguing politics since 2018 pretty hard.
Yeah.
I mean, we've always conversed politics
Yeah.
since 2010 probably.
Yeah.
Okay,
but anyway, back to your election interference thing.
So all of this happens, right? All of this happens. Trump goes and he gets impeached, right? I don't think that there was a single Republican in the House that voted for impeachment on that first one. I don't think there was a single one. And so the House impeaches him. It goes up to the Senate. The Senate decides that they're not going to do anything with it. And so it kind of just falls flat on its face. The reason that matters, though, is that the politicians in the Democratic Party can then talk about how Trump has been impeached, right? There's only been three presidents impeached, right? And I can't remember the very first one, but you got Nixon, Clinton,
Nixon,
right?
Clinton, Trump.
3 presidents have ever been impeached. So that is a strong talking point when you are trying to convince the American people not to vote for somebody. So they build this huge case up. It's still not working. Trump doesn't get shamed out of leaving. He doesn't resign because he's got no shame. He's like, you're lying. Let's keep going. So manufactured chaos, culmination, impeachment, right? It still does not get Trump to leave the office, right? He doesn't resign, right? So shaming isn't working on him. They got to step it up, right? They've already been media spinning him hard. You get things like inject bleach into your veins. You're getting shutting down the border during COVID, and he's a xenophobe. You get creating a border wall to protect our border, right? To funnel anybody that's coming through the border through our points of entry so that Homeland Security and Border Patrol don't have to fucking cover the entirety of our southern border to protect us, right? Points of entry are smart.
Yep.
Then you get into J6, right? You get into January 6th after he's lost his election bid by 5 million votes, right? They both had record-breaking election counts, right? We've talked about the election and how it looks phony as shit. But J6, he's on the stand. He's saying, I want everybody to peacefully protest, right? He is saying peacefully protest in his speech. Everybody's like, oh, it didn't happen fast enough, blah, 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 blah. He's inciting insurrection. I almost said erection, just like everybody else on the Democrat side.
So let me jump in here with some stats.
Please do.
Just so people kind of understand why J6 happened. So if you're Trump, okay, your campaign is looking at the figures, you're baffled. You don't know what the hell just happened, okay? Obama in 2008, at the time, had the most successful election in the history of American presidents. He drew 69 million votes from a bunch of Americans who didn't really like voting in the first place, okay? If you all remember, his Believe campaign was energized by social media, which was new then, right? And he used it to his benefit and drew a whole bunch of a younger crowd. So anyway, if you look at it, he got 69 million votes. He showed up in 873 different counties, all right? He was an 18 out of 19 on the bellwether score. He won Florida, Ohio, and what was the other one? What was the other major state? Iowa. Okay. So Florida, Ohio, and Iowa. And he won. He ended up netting House seats, okay, through his campaign. More people in the House were Democrats than were elected. Absolutely. Democrats and Republicans. Okay, so now go to Trump in 2020. All right. He breaks that record. He breaks Obama's record, which is, they're both super popular guys, so it makes sense. Super popular. Yeah. So he breaks it by 5 million votes. He's got 74 million people that voted for him. Obama, 873 counties, he went and lobbied in. 2,497 counties, Trump president. He was all over the United States doing his thing. Just like Obama, he had 18 of the 19 bellwether factors going for him. He also won Florida, Ohio, and Iowa, and he got more Republicans elected into the House. But he lost. What? Why? So Biden, he basically didn't even campaign because
he was locked in his basement.
He was in his basement, right? He somehow got 81 million votes. So crushing Trump's 74 million record. Okay.
And
just obliterating it.
2 years of Obama's elections.
Crushing Obama's. He was only in 477 counties, right? He had one of the 19 bellwether factors going for him. He lost Florida, Ohio, and Iowa, and he lost house seats. So this is the data that Trump and Trump's campaign are looking at, and it doesn't make any sense. Okay. Right. And so they're like, there's something wrong here. Yeah. There's no way Biden got 81 million votes for that campaign, because they're campaign experts. These people who run and help get a president elected, they know the numbers. And they were looking at what Biden did, and they're like, there's no way he got 81 million votes.
Yeah.
They weren't at the time talking, interference or anything like that, but they're just like, from a pure math perspective, it is mind-blowing that he was able to attract that kind of attention with a campaign that he lobbied.
I mean, they had people who have run elections since Carter analyzing this data.
Yeah.
And they were like, what? No, this doesn't make sense. There were so many people that were experts telling Trump that there's no way that he lost this election, right? So for 3 months, he's like all over the place. There's no way that we lost this election. And I want to remind everyone here, right? Gore did the same thing with the hanging Chad down in Florida, right? And Bush in the very first election. He had lawsuit after lawsuit about that stuff, telling everybody that it was need to be recounted, and he didn't lose the election, right? Hillary Clinton did the same thing in 2016. Okay, so it's not abnormal for a presidential campaign to bring it to lawyers, to bring it to the courts, to battle it out and say there was something wrong. We need to recount. We need to redo. It is a very American ideal. It has been happening since the founding of our country. I can guarantee you that. So we need to just take a deep breath and be like, okay, this is just what politicians do. It's a huge organization. I mean, they are millions of dollars. They've got thousands of employees. I mean, it is a huge business at this point, right? For these campaigns. So all of this is happening, right? So Trump comes out, he's telling everybody to peacefully protest. He's doing everything in his power. Lawyers are telling him that, they're going to figure it out. It all comes to a bust. Nothing's there. He never once gets charged with insurrection. Not one time, right? I mean, he's in legal battle after legal battle after legal battle, right? But it took a couple years before he started actually going to court for a lot of this stuff. Not a single charge for insurrection. They're charging him for everything else that they can find on him. I guarantee you, if he was guilty of insurrection, they would have him charged for insurrection. They don't have that power. It would get thrown out of court every day. They know that. They recognize that.
I mean, they're still trying.
They're trying. Oh, yeah, they're trying to get him impeached for anything, but they can't get him impeached, they tried to get him arrested and thrown in jail, but they can't get him for insurrection. I mean, you don't think that Jack Smith would be chomping at the bits for an insurrection charge if he could? He absolutely would be.
Yeah.
He knows he doesn't have anything there. So, and for Jack Smith to be like, I can't do that. I'll have to figure out some other shady ass charge to levy at him. I mean, that speaks volumes right there about his innocence.
Right.
And there are about 11,000 hours of video footage from January 6th, okay, proving that something around 150 FBI agents were within the crowd, instigating, damaging property, doing all kinds of other crap on January 6th to make it seem unruly. And this is a play straight out of FBI and CIA when they have some kind of a peaceful protest that they don't like the narrative of, they try everything in their power to make it violent. A prime example of that is Martin Luther King. Every time that he would do any kind of a rally and get anybody all motivated, FBI, CIA would come in, start throwing bricks. It allows the cops and the FBI to shut down the protest, to start arresting people, right? This is a very, very classic example of what the U.S. government does to dissidents that they don't like, that they're not in charge of.
So, I mean, just the counterpoint, though, to some of that was that there were plenty of investigations that looked to see if the FBI were in the crowd. So far, nothing's been found. Nothing has been charged. I'm just saying.
They are not going to find anything or charge anything. We will see within the coming years, and it'll be very evident, especially if Trump gets reelected, because I'm sure there's going to be a whole commission on this crap. Trump's going to be out there leading the charge forward on getting the government back up on its feet. But I bet you anything that there's commissions on what the hell has been going on in the country for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So
that is one of the things. If you look at the claims, interestingly, they're using the FBI's own testimony as source, which doesn't make any sense.
We didn't do it. Yeah, there's been no third-party investigations. There's been releasing of anything. And the first January 6th commission, right, buried evidence. Like, I think that one of the main reasons that Tucker Carlson actually got fired is because he was releasing footage, right, from January 6th that the commission did not want him to release. I can't remember how he got access to that information, but
right.
I do remember very strongly about a lot of that stuff. So basically,
to circle this all back, this started with Clay Higgins. Okay, Clay Higgins is the guy who basically was like, he had him and his crew were like, all right, let's analyze these crowds. Who is in here doing this stuff, right? Because this is not insurrection. How did this happen? And so he and his team basically had sworn affidavits and whistleblower statements coming out saying like, hey, we saw these, we were in the crowd. We saw people who were acting weird. They, were claimed to be FBI, stuff like that. He has court records from the January 6th defendants. They were on the stand saying that they were, that they were working with the FBI on some of these things. And then of course they, like you were saying, they analyzed just the video. And they were putting faces to names, and those names belonged to FBI agents. And then what happened was that the ruling committee, which was but staffed by the Democrats, just asked the FBI, is this true? And the FBI was like, no. And then they're like, okay,
we would never do something like that.
Yeah. So anyway, that's where it's at right now. So officially debunked.
It brings back so many memories.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I should talk about one of the FBI guys. I don't know if I need to be putting his name out there or anything like that, but stop me if I'm about to cross a line for our podcast here. But Ray Epps, he is a classic example of somebody who is on a microphone telling the crowd to go into the buildings, and he was trying to build momentum, and people were like, dude, calm down. Like, nobody needs to be breaking into buildings. Like, there's multiple recordings of this guy, right? Never one time did this guy go to court. He never went to prison like all the other J6ers. He just drops off the face of the earth, right? I mean,
and by the way, for everybody who is listening, we just got through saying, okay, that the official statement as of now that came out of the congressional hearings is that the FBI was not involved in any of the in J5 or 6. Okay, they were not involved. It's all Clay Higgins is just a conspiracy theorist, just trying a Trump advocate. However, in that same breath, There are videos of this guy, Ray Epps, who is an FBI agent, who was literally in the crowd urging people to enter the Capitol on his megaphone. Like, we have video of this. So it's kind of like, what? Like, how can you make claim A when you have video evidence over here? Exhibit B, the dude telling people to go charge the the building. But Zach, okay, just understand, Christopher Ray has denied that the FBI did any of this, that this was all just crazy conspiracy theory. Yeah. So just close your eyes. Don't listen to anything that's been recorded, and accept Daddy Government's explanation of the events.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. That's all you got to do. Close your eyes and hope for the best.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
So look it up. And so for those of you who are listening, Ray Epps is the name. All right. There's plenty of evidence. You can look it up yourself. There's
many others. I don't want to spend all of our podcast talking about them, but I mean, there is evidence, strong evidence of malfeasance on this part. And it is par for course. Like, every time we talk about, the CIA doing bad things, right? The FBI has just as many skeletons in their closet for shutting down peaceful protests that the government doesn't like. So, and you can fact check me on Martin Luther King. I mean, it is a real thing that happened to his peaceful protests. So that leads him to his second impeachment, right? This is after he's left office. No president has ever been impeached after they've left office, right? Because it doesn't mean anything. There is no reason for it. Impeachment is just to make a president leave office. That is the only reason it exists. It does not exist to throw somebody in jail, right? It is just saying this person is not fit for office and he needs to be removed from office. That's what the provision is there for. So impeaching him after leaving office, senseless, right? But it goes to another thing that they love doing. A talking point. He's been impeached twice. He's a felon. Blah, 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 blah. It falls on deaf ears for most of the people who actually support Trump at this point, right? You're not going to convince anybody to leave his support. But what it does is it prevents other people that haven't been paying attention to what is going on in the country from going to his support. Until, they have a chink in their armor like what Jesse had happened to him. And then he has to start looking into all of the stuff that's happened in the last 10 years. And that is where his life is at right now.
It's true. It's literally everything. Like, everything. So one of the things, are you going to get into state-by-state election interference?
I don't know. Probably not. I've got a couple little points, but if you've got some stuff about that, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's just use Georgia as an example, right? Because, I mean, there was potentially interference at a much larger level in a few states, but Georgia was kind of like the highlight. I remember hearing that in the news all the time, and we were told over and over and over again, like, there might be some, some minor discrepancies to the tune of, dozen votes for the entire state. It's very minimal. It's not going to be impacting the result, the results of the outcome. So over the last few years, though, in Georgia, various agencies have been looking into it, both private and federal, or at least, government owned, looking into potential voter fraud, right? Yeah. And they take their findings and they have to go to the state election board. And they have to say, hey, state election board, we have these discrepancies. We would like to have them officially interrogated because it could impact, the results, the official results. And so this is what has been brought to the SEB, the state election board in Georgia. All right. They again, this has been unofficially investigated because state election board says, nah, we're not going to look into it, but thanks for bringing it to our attention. 5,000 felons potentially voted in the election, which would be, of course, illegal. That I was supposed to. Right. SEB was like, nah, we're not going to dig into this. 66,248 underage voters. Like, also illegal. You got to be of a certain age to vote. SCB was like, nah, it's unlikely to have happened. We're not going to investigate. 2,423 not registered to vote, voted. We had 1,043 illegally registered using P.O. boxes. Can't do that. You got to have a house address or an apartment address. You got to have something that ties you to a physical location. It's basically the law of the land of Georgia. They decided not to investigate that. 4,926 votes were registered after the registration had been closed. How did that happen? How did those names get in there? Because that's very strange. Some backdoor shit going on there, if proven accurate. But they declined to interrogate that. 10,315 votes that were coming from deceased people. Nah, we're not going to look into that either. You're whatever. 15,000-ish had faulty addresses. 40,279 failed to properly re-register to vote that year. And so you're talking, 100 and some odd thousand, 150-ish thousand that could have potentially illegally voted in Georgia. None of them investigated. So that's just one state, right? Yeah. Where all this stuff has come out. And the SCB is just not even entertaining it.
No. And this is the same state, if I remember correctly, that had people pulling Pelican cases out from underneath tables after they've stopped counting ballots so that they could run these Pelican cases filled with ballots through the counting machines. I mean, they have video evidence of it. They did nothing with it. I think Nevada or Arizona, one of the two, were going through these proceedings, and they were like, we have over 150,000 people registered for our state, or basically the discrepancy is registered voters versus how many people voted. And there was 150,000 more voted than were registered in one of the states. So, I mean, that kind of stuff blows my mind that we're not looking into it. Like, why wouldn't we want the American people to be proud of our election system?
Do you remember the picture?
Feel confident of free and fair elections.
I don't know, but we all remember the picture of one of the, I can't remember, I think it was in Arizona, where one of the election places where they're doing all the counting had huge windows just kind of wrapping around it, and people on the inside started putting up paper over the windows to prevent people from looking in.
Yeah, it's like, why? I do remember that.
How is that? Okay, first of all, that is massively dishonest immediately, and yet it's just people are allowing it to happen. Like, don't look. We don't want you looking at what we're about to do. No, I'm sorry. You can't claim that there was no election interference when shit like that was going down. It was on public TV. Like, it was, people were airing it live.
I do remember that. They're like, and now they're boarding up the windows with paper.
Yeah.
I don't know. So all of that stuff's going on in the background. Trump, is being told all of that stuff. I don't know.
And you have to imagine too. So for me, when I'm hearing all this on J6, when I wake up that morning, and I'm just pelted with this news that Trump is throwing this insurrection. He's trying to storm the Capitol. He's inciting riots. It makes perfect sense because for the last 4 years, I had heard literally the first week that Trump took office. Okay, Keystone Pipeline. He's reopening up Keystone Pipeline. And it was demonized. It was this massive, hit to the economy, not to the economy, but to the environment. It was running through all these indigenous lands that were holy and sacred. And it was just massively demonized. We didn't hear any of the benefits. We just heard how bad it was for the country, and for Americans specifically, and Native Americans at most. And so that was the first week. All right. And then it just went from there all the way downhill. It just got worse and worse and worse. So by now, I'm relieved that Biden has won the election. Okay. Right. And now here it is with the final few days of Trump's presidency, and now this. And are you kidding me? Of course he's trying to overthrow it, because I'd heard nothing but bad things for 4 years. Everything, all the messaging was in alignment, right? Yeah. All the dominoes were falling. I didn't even have to think critically, because I knew he was guilty of this.
Right.
I knew
it
he was
catered
guilty
to
of an
all
insurrection.
of your core beliefs and your biases.
Yep.
It's like, there it is.
Yep. He's the bad guy doing bad guy things.
Orange man bad. Mm-hmm. Not even shocked, you know?
So anyway, like so the point is this, is that as a Democrat, somebody who voted for Biden, there wasn't even an opportunity for me to critically think about what was happening on January 6th. It was just something he was doing, yet another bad thing he was doing. Like, and I don't know if you and I talked about J6, but
I don't think we had.
No, I don't think we did. But it was like, there was nothing to talk about as far as I was concerned. Yeah. Of course. Right. Orange man mad. Orange man bad.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm going to kind of take us back again just a little bit about some of the media coverage, because you make very valid points, right? The media just did a really bad job or a really good job of making everybody biased towards him. But then you also had all of Hollywood talking about how, you know, assassinating would be a good idea. You had everyone from Madonna to Johnny Depp talking about it. You had Kathy Griffin holding up a severed head of Trump's. You had artists making naked statues with small penises and floats, I think, in New York City, floating through the air. Naked Trump with small dick. Like, just all of this is happening within our culture, and we're just absorbing all of this bad vibes that they're trying to pump into our brains to make us biased against everything that's happening. I was going somewhere with that, but it might be gone now.
Well, I mean, let me just piggyback on this for a second. This is actually coming up again. So I typically enjoy, you know, some of this late night comedy. It kind of up my alley, right? And so last week tonight, right, the week Trump took office, basically John Oliver just did this massive mudslinging, you know, evening. They released, so just a few days ago, I think it was on the 25th, right after, it was on the 25th. I can't remember what happened. Trump did something, you know, Kamala did something, doesn't matter. But but HBO released that episode, which occurred 4 years ago, you know, the first week Trump office. They put it back online. It was their primary video on YouTube, the full episode for everybody to listen to. And it was 30 minutes of, you know, John Oliver just ripping Trump a new one. It's funny, but steeped in misinformation. And then just before that, though, John Oliver did another piece on RFK and literally ripped him a new one, too. Again, funny, but it was largely disingenuous, right? Yeah. RFK wrote a book on kind of like, which is people believe is steeped in conspiracy, because he's basically questioning the validity of vaccines, the vaccine mandate in the United States, and just how it's not properly tested. We're just slamming these vaccines into our children's veins. We have no idea what the impact is. He draws very clean associations between 1989 when a law came on federal books saying, hey, you can no longer sue vaccine manufacturers or developers, right? And it was that same year that it was something like, there was like 3 to 5, I can't remember the number of vaccines that a kid needed to have. Spiked.
And it's only grown, yeah.
We're up to 70 something, over 70, right? Infants are given hepatitis B vaccines. Why? Can you imagine a scenario where a child is going to acquire hepatitis B?
It's not a good situation.
No, let's put it this way. It's never happened. All right. There's no reason to inoculate every single child with hepatitis B. Stupid. So anyway, he just talks about it, okay, in this book. He brings it out and says, hey, there's a lot of corruption in this system. It's probably not good. We need to address it. There needs to be a health reform around this thing. And then, of course, John Oliver, he just takes the anti-vaccine route and just just mires it in conspiracy, calls him crazy, does the whole, worm brain thing. He brings up the whole bear, the bear in Central Park, and just wraps all of this really solid research that he's done over 20 plus years, and then just associates it with these sound bites in these little clips of him, and basically just drags his name through the mud. Yeah. And that is popular with like younger crowds. And so younger crowds are seeing this, and now they're going to, again, it's reinforced just how bad Trump is, because Trump is now associated with this RFK guy. Even RFK's own cousins are coming out against him. His sister's coming out against him. How good could he possibly be?
Yeah.
How are the American people supposed to make an honest, informed decision when this is all they're hearing?
Yeah. And the media does such a good job on it. Like, if you just read CNN, right? They've got like the top 10 things that Trump has ever done. And it's a lot of the stuff we've covered, right? One of them I haven't covered yet, though, is abusing the pardon power, right? Everybody was like, oh man, Trump's pardoning people as he's getting out of office. He's abusing the shit out of it, right? So let's look at some of the presidents. Jimmy Carter, 566. Reagan, 406. Bush Sr., 77. Bill Clinton, 459. All of those were white-collar bankers, pretty much, who he was shaking hands with. George Bush, 200. Barack Obama. Guess how many Barack Obama had?
Pardons, sorry. I have
no idea, right?
1,000.
1,927.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Donald Trump, 237. Okay. Joe Biden, 11. Probably his son. all 11 of them.
Right.
So it's just the media coverage, super, super twisted, right? Then you start getting into the indictments that's been happening recently. Jean Carroll, they changed laws, the American Survivors Act, specifically to go after Trump. Okay. They specifically changed that law to go after Donald Trump. They had it all ready to go. Governor Hochul was like, citizens of New York, you don't have to worry about this. This is, you're going to be fine. The law, is, she basically came out and said, it's just designed, all of these change laws are just designed to go after Trump, right? The guy who created the law, I think it was Kevin Parker, he's a New York senator, got pegged with it. And he was like, it's unconstitutional. It's an unconstitutional law. So, like, this kind of crap was just par for course. Everybody was like, whatever, just ignoring it, allowing everybody to do whatever the hell they wanted to do within the American system. Political, law, whatever, so long as it got rid of Trump, because that's what everybody expected our government to do, because they've called him Hitler for so long, and they've made him out to be such a villain that it didn't matter what liberty they stripped away from the American people, so long as they got Donald Trump. Classified documents, were all up to date on that one. The Georgia case, where he was telling his lawyers, to get in and figure out what's going on in Georgia, right? To find the votes, to figure out what happened. And Jesse went through that list, and Fani Willis got assigned this case and made an absolute bungle out of it, right? Because she was giving her boyfriend millions and millions of dollars, through this scheme. And there's a lot of money there from the federal government to run these cases. And so you see, anytime that there's money involved, people are like all about it. Every single one of these cases could have been tried and been done and over with before an election year, right? They said that Hillary Clinton getting pegged with an investigation, I think it was their email server, right? Back in 2016, was the nail in the coffin that lost her the election, more or less. I think she would have lost anyways, but they said that the FBI jumping into that investigation at that time was the nail in the coffin. So Hunter Biden's laptop came around and they didn't investigate. They buried it. They had 51 intelligence agents come out of nowhere and said, it's fake. It's just Russian disinformation. Everybody believed it, right? 51 intelligence agents came out. We all know now that laptop is 100% accurate. All of the whoring and the crack pipes and the child sex bullshit, the heinous things, the bad emails talking about the big guy who is Joe Biden, right? Getting kickbacks on this. Hunter Biden has been paying his parents' bills for years, right? And all of that money is coming in to Hunter Biden's account and getting funneled back into their family. And it's not just Hunter Biden that's making this money, right? He's got grandchildren that are getting money from like China, right? This shit is insane.
Right.
That level of corruption, millions of dollars are funneling into his family's accounts. And then you start seeing things like Nordic Pipeline getting shut down and the U.S. begging money from Iran after they shut down all of our pipelines. So now we're funneling taxpayer money into other countries like Iran. Now Iran has enough money to start funneling their profits back into terrorist organizations, right? Now we have war in the Middle East again. Congratulations. All of this is happening because Joe Biden he's on the take. He is basically accused Trump of everything that he has done, which is insane.
Right.
So every single time the Democrats have accused Trump of a crime, Joe Biden has already done it. He's been there, he's done it. So, and one of the famous ones is he's on camera bragging about how he got that prosecutor fired over in Ukraine for looking into his son's company, Burisma. And
it's not his company. Burisma is
his son's company. Well,
his
son was on the board. He was a member of that. Joe Biden was on phone calls all the time with the board. They'd put him on speakerphone and have conversations with the guy. So American taxpayer money used to change the outcome of a company's fate in another country. That's the kind of stuff, the election interference that just astounds me, is that when you're going to accuse Donald Trump of all of this crap, but then you can look in the mirror and everything you're accusing him of is something that the Democrats and the Democratic Party are guilty of. So,
I have not personally dug into the laptop. I haven't got there yet in my personal stuff.
There's a few really good books about it if you're into books. So
I read. I got other stuff to read, but
I know.
Luckily, with this kind of stuff, you don't need a book. It's just like all there online. People are just posting it all for free, which is fantastic. So I'll definitely dig into it. It's curious.
You should. Read Miranda Devine's Laptop from Hell.
So if we actually here's the official account that I'm aware of. Okay, is at first the laptop. Everybody was trying to say the laptop wasn't Hunter's and that this was just a completely fabricated laptop. It just came out of nowhere. The timing is super suspicious, yada, 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 right? And it was. Yeah. The timing was suspicious. It was right before the election, okay?
Right.
And everybody's trying to say it's not Hunter's. It's just a manufactured thing. Or the information on it is planted. Who knows? It's not Joe. Right. It's not Hunter, rather. But then the FBI, their cybercrime team, came back and said, nope, this is definitely Hunter's, and it's definitely legitimate. The information on here is 100% real, and we are digging into it. So they're actively looking at it as of right now, August 28th.
And it's not even just the FBI. Hunter has been in a courtroom and admitted that it is his.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he had to at that point. The FBI had him dead to rights.
They basically were like, it's his, and he was like, it's mine.
Yeah. And so now the next part of this is, okay, what's on here? What is this? How is the information that they're pulling actually tying Hunter and Joe specifically to corruption within Ukraine, using connections, using his vice presidency to do to influence Ukraine? And it'll be interesting. But unfortunately, I mean, have you seen the latest videos of Joe Biden?
Yeah, yeah.
Cognitive decline is in full swing. Like,
it's been there for 4 years, and they're just letting it go now. They're not even trying to cover it up.
No, they are. They're not putting him in front of the camera. They're like, stay on a beach, stay on vacation. You're on vacation until we get Kamala in office. Like, he is gone. Like, there, every now and then you get a little picture of him, or you get 5 seconds of him on a beach, and he's a vacant vessel of a human being. Like, don't get me wrong, Biden had a storied past. Like, he was a powerhouse as a politician.
I think we talked about the time that he destroyed Paul Ryan in that debate.
Yeah.
Destroyed him.
Yeah, Paul Ryan was a sharp guy, but Biden just had him. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He's just gone now. It's sad to see.
It's sad that he had to spend his last few years trying to go through this crap, and he could have just stayed out of it.
Yep.
And honestly, the Democrats as a political party would have been so much better off letting Trump run for 4 more years and just continuing the train of slander and chaos for another 4 years. Like, he would have had to duke it out with the remnants of COVID and our economy, and just, by the end of it, nobody would have ever voted for a Republican ever again.
Honestly, no, I mean, we would have been in a much better spot had Trump actually been the commander-in-chief during COVID, because we would have had hydroxychloroquine, we would have had ivermectin, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So I was just digging into
I'm not
the figures.
saying that we wouldn't have been in a better spot as a country.
Yeah,
we 100% would have been in, but the Democrats would have been in a better spot too.
Probably. Yeah.
Because
now they're screwed.
They're screwed.
Yeah, man. Well,
I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
If Americans voted, if that was the only thing influencing the election, Democrats would be in a really bad place. Okay, it looks like they're going to lose the Senate, almost all but guaranteed at this point. They're going to lose the Senate. They already lost they're going to lose the House. It's all said and done. And so their only chance of maintaining any sort of power is if they sneak Kamala in there somehow. I
mean, they need the veto power.
they're not going to have the House or the Senate. There's just no way they're walking away with it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The Democrats need the veto power, because everything's going to be coming up.
But it's not going to be 50-50. Like, they're losing the Senate. Like, I think if you
no. I get what you're saying, but the president can still veto laws.
Oh, yeah,
right, and then it goes back down to the House, and then they have to battle it out.
Got it.
So they need something to stop what is going to be happening if the Republicans win a complete red.
It's going to be all red. Yeah.
And I don't love letting one political party have full control of the government. I don't love that. Right now, I love that. Right. I want full control of the Republicans so that they can go in and try to fix what the fuck has been going on and get rid of some of the corruption. If it goes beyond that, I'm going to be like, got to get them out.
Yeah. I mean,
if they start doing shenanigans.
Well, they're going to. That's what
I hope not.
It's what our political institutions do. They're just nothing but shenanigans and clowns. It's just but the problem is that the institutional corruption in the DNC right now is just too massive. It's just it's crazy.
It is massive.
It's literally there. Yeah. Anyway, but back to election interference. So here's some interesting stuff for you. Okay. So RFK, right? He says, "Hey, I'm dropping out of the race. I'm still going to be on the ballot, but I'm going to support Trump, and I'm going to support his presidency, and I'm going to remove my name from ballots across the country, except for some of these other states." So Michigan
can't get his name off.
Yeah, Michigan was like, you're not allowed to remove your name from the ballot. And if you actually look into it, it is their law. Okay.
Yeah.
If at a certain time you want to remove, like, you can have your name removed from the ballot up until a certain point in time. Anytime after that, it's got to stay on there for the entirety of the election. That's fine. And so RFK hit that threshold. He's can't have his name removed. However, the Michigan's Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, is trying to remove a Democratic name from the list, Cornel West, off the ballot. And the courts were like, no, you can't do that. For the same reason you can't remove RFK's, you can't remove his. However, they're pushing so hard. So that now they're in appeal, and they're trying to get it removed. She is not making any sort of case for RFK or on RFK's behalf.
Right.
They want RFK to stay on, or they want RFK to stay on. They want this other name to be removed. It's ridiculous. Why is this important? Why am I saying this? Is because if RFK is on the ballot, but Cornel West is not, RFK will draw Republican votes away from Trump, okay, into this into his name, which he stands no chance of winning. But at the end of the day, more people will end up voting for Kamala because this random pool of people voting for RFK. Now, if Cornel West was off of the ballot, all right, then he would not be there to likewise soak up Democratic votes, giving more power over to Trump. But yeah, the Secretary of State, who should be nonpartisan here, is super fucking partisan. Yeah. And is massively overt.
Yeah. And they didn't have any problems getting Joe Biden's name off there and replacing it with Kamala.
Right.
So.
Right. Anyway, that's just really, it's just, and this is happening right now, by the way. So if you're looking for modern day election interference, it's already happening.
Yeah. I mean, I could throw something at a wall and hit election interference at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
just
ridiculous.
It's just rampant. It's everywhere.
Yep. And we started it off, right? I mean, CNN has this, they figured out how to get Kamala on air, not pre-taped, allowing her to get a voice. Trump's not going to be on CNN.
Nope.
That they don't want to interview Trump. They have no interest in interviewing Trump because Trump will say all these things that will make a lot of sense. But Kamala Harris and her crutch Walls will be allowed to go on there and say whatever they want to say straight from the script. It's gonna be. I can't wait to watch it.
I really hope that she does the debates on the 10th, and I really hope she's not sitting down and she doesn't have note cards, and they do, because you have to understand, right? This was the debate that Biden agreed to and Trump solidified, right? I mean, it was disadvantage to Trump in both debates, and it was home field advantage to Biden. Kamala Harris can't even do what Joe Biden promised. Okay? That is terrible. What are we talking about? He's a vegetable, and Kamala Harris can't match what he was doing, what he agreed to do. That's terrible.
It is.
This is the person that we want to step to the table with Putin, Xi Jinping. Okay, this is the person that we want to be able to have a conversation with our allies, to give confidence in American strength, and she can't do a 90-minute debate with her political opponent without note cards.
No, she cannot. And there's a very, very good reason for it. Yeah. Because she would get an
time is time. Because time is time. Because time is
time.
Well, no,
I mean, if they actually start PQ&Aing or precision Q&A, precision question and answer. Sorry, PQ&A. That she's going to fall apart because what
she can't answer anything.
What's important to American people, right? We want to restore the middle class. We want to embolden small businesses, things like that. Well, guess what is in the agenda? What's in the Biden-Harris administration's agenda for the fiscal year 2025? The budget. Yeah. Okay. This is the only information we have right now, and Kamala has endorsed this. Yeah. She wants to raise the small business tax rate to 39.6%. What? That is socialism.
Yeah.
How is the small businesses are already hurting as it is? It's already tough. Yeah. You need every advantage you can get, but 39.6%, almost 40%. That's what they want to raise that to.
Yeah.
This is anyway. Kamala Harris wants to raise the federal corporate income rate, tax rate to 28%. It's 21 right now. This is higher than communist China, which is sitting at 25%, and higher than the EU, which is sitting at an average of 21%.
Yeah.
Again, a direct attack on just America, working class America. Because guess what? If you start taxing all these corporations an additional 7%,
they're going to go somewhere else.
Where are they going to get that money from?
And they're going to pass that right to the people.
Yes. Those bonuses you are getting, gone. Straight up gone. They're not going to give you a bonus. I'm sorry, but we can't afford to give it to you. We have our stock, we have our board that we have to represent, our stockholders we have to represent. They need their money. You just keep toiling.
Yep.
It's unbelievable.
There goes your raises. There goes your salary positions. There goes, and the consumer that are buying their products, right along to them too. So it's not good.
No, she wants to raise capital gains dividends tax to 44.6%.
Yeah.
Okay. There is a capital gains tax in China. Do you want to take a guess of what that is? This is communist China.
22%.
Yep.
Is it really?
It's 20%.
Wow.
Okay. And this is...
She's doubling. More than doubling.
More than doubling what China is doing. Communist China.
We've already got a little bit of a tax in there. I think it's 25% or something like that. So I think we're already pretty high on it.
Okay.
But she's just raising it.
Yes,
and I'm not defending it. I'm not defending her in any way, shape, or form. No. Right? It's just...
So when you combine this with state rates, okay, California, New Jersey, Oregon, Minnesota, and New York, this will push it all over 50% for these states. That's insane. That is absolutely insane.
I mean, that just means that everybody that's living in those states that has any kind of wealth is going to be leaving those states and going to a place like Texas, where they don't have income tax, or Washington, where they don't have income tax. But Washington is raising their taxes too. So, I mean, I think Inslee was going ham on people's 401ks and their stocks and stuff.
Right.
So
yeah, that's why one of the reasons I moved out of King County, because like that, it was getting horrible.
Yeah, for sure.
To register a, I'm going to say a GTI, okay, a 2020 GTI, the year we bought it was $800. All right, $800 for tags. The year after that, it was something like I don't know, because it was a year had gone by. It was something like six something, and then 500 before that. Like, that's a lot of money for tags, fam.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So we moved to Snohomish County, where that is now, I think her vehicle is something like $70. My BMW, it's a 2015. Okay, is something like, I don't know if it's maybe 40, right?
That's Idaho prices.
Yeah,
right there.
It's regular ass human being prices, not 800.
I mean, the only thing that it does, right, and I like to equate this stuff to what happened in Sun Valley, right? You raise the prices so that average, ordinary Americans, can't afford it, and they leave. And then you got a rich people playground. It's only for rich people. You cannot be there unless you are rich. And they do that all over the country. So that's the best way to get rid of the people that they don't want in their area. They just start raising the shit out of taxes and making it so that normal people cannot live in those areas. And it's pretty awful.
No, it's terrible. It's terrible. I'm just gonna finish this list. Okay.
Yeah,
21% global minimum tax on American business. All right. Thank you for that. She wants to tax cryptocurrency, 30% there. She wants to have a $37 billion tax on American energy. So it's new taxes on oil and gas companies.
I have one question. There is no current tax on cryptocurrencies, correct?
Yeah. No. I mean, so aside from the standard investment taxes, right? Capital gains, things like that. Yeah. This is brand new. This is a brand new crypto tax that will exist. 30% across the board.
Ouch.
Okay. She wants a 32% increase on Medicare taxes. She wants a $34 billion retirement tax. And the list goes on, right? She wants
retirement tax.
20.
Like you're going into retirement and they're like, let's see what your assets are before you retire.
Yes.
Dude, I just watched a special on how people are leaving retirement to come back to the workforce in their 70s because of how bad the inflation has been for the last 4 years. And they just can't afford it anymore. I mean, that's heartbreaking.
Yes.
That's heartbreaking.
She wants to make it worse. And by the way, these things that I'm saying here go look them up. This is all in her plan. So all you have to do, for the people listening, okay, is go look up the Biden-Harris administration's fiscal year 2025 budget. It's a 188-page document. You can read through all this stuff yourself. And last but not least, she wants to increase the size of the IRS. Gee, I wonder why.
Weird.
She wants to give them another $104.3 billion to go and all these taxes that we're just talking about, and there's some that haven't. They're going to give the IRS $104 billion to go collect that money.
But don't worry.
Sake, government.
They're not going
out
after
of my
tips,
life.
Tax tips anymore.
Well, gee.
At least they did that one common sense thing.
Listen, she signed that into law, all right? Or she was the deciding vote to get that into law. There's no way. This is something she's saying.
The increase. Yeah, I remember that. That just happened a year or two ago.
No.
Right?
You're talking about tax on tips, okay? She was the the deciding vote to make that to turn that into reality.
That's
now
what I'm
she's saying she's going to reverse
vice
it.
president.
Yes, as vice president. So now she's saying she's going to undo that. I call bullshit.
Yeah.
Why would she undo
there was already taxes on tips, right? She just made them worse.
She made it harder for them to not report it.
Yeah.
And
they just averaged what your salary is or whatever, what your sales or something. I can't remember exactly what they did, but it was like aggressive.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. Yes, there were changes to how they were reported. Okay. But the insidiousness of it is that they gave the IRS hired another 80,000 people to go and get that money. So the IRS was not incentivized to go and attack waitresses, for fuck's sake. No. They had other things to do. But now they have an entire department dedicated to just that. Yeah. So if you're a waitress, you can thank Biden and Harris for your tax shenanigans next year, because it's going to be bad for you. All those tips, you're going to have to come up with some cash to get back to Daddy Fed.
And I feel bad for all of the people who are basically, I think they called them contractors in Key West, the music people. Yeah. Everybody that would be at a bar, their tips, all of that stuff is going to get taxed. You had a really good night at the bar, people gave you a lot of tips, gone. Yep. It's going to make it really hard. I've got a lot of friends that survive. My wife survives off of tips. She doesn't survive, but
that is,
we're a team.
It is a fundamental part of American society for sure. Tips. Like I go whenever I have my favorite restaurant here in town, I tip the bill. Whatever the bill is, that's the tip, right? And that's just the way it is. I'm in a position where I could do that. I'm so happy to, because I know that's where they get their cash from. Otherwise, they're getting $3 an hour, which is garbage. So
it is garbage.
And they make amazing food. They're always amazing, so they get a good tip. But anyway, do you have anything else, Zach?
No. I'm gonna go eat dinner.
Be vigilant, everybody. Open your eyes. Look at what there is to see. Hear what there is to hear. If you're listening to CNN and Tim Walz talk about how he's going to revolutionize America, he's in bed with China.
He might revolutionize America.
Oh, yes.
Revolutionary War.
Luckily, we should have a conversation around that, because it's going to be, when we talk about Civil War, it's literally the 99% against the 1%. It's left and right teaming up together to overthrow these motherfuckers that are just ruining this country.
Which is what, rich people have always been terrified of. And that's why they play us off against each other. That's why there's a two-party system and all of this crap. But they go, look at the middle class and then the poor people, and you guys should fight with each other and ignore us while we do all of these happy shenanigans with everybody's money. So
it's horrible. Yep. That was a good talk, Zach. Appreciate the time as always.
I love it too. That's why we're here.